What's changed?
2024 has changed, right? So it's colliding. That type of stance and doctrine is colliding with the fact that polls are showing that the economy is one of the weakest spots for the biggest vulnerabilities for President Biden, right? Mm-hmm. Not only the economy, but specifically inflation. So he's essentially been cheering on inflation, essentially trying to wave it down as much as he can, because it has been such a political liability for him. Americans just aren't feeling this rosy economic picture that he's been trying to point for them.
He's going to have to keep waving that thing down a little bit, it looks like, Mario. I'll tell you, Julie Fine with us, our Texas Bureau Chief. Julie, we've talked a lot about the corrosive impact of inflation around the country. There are a lot of concerns now that this might be an instance of reinflation or maybe just a plateauing. The extent to which people can learn to live with prices at the grocery store, shelter costs, etc. From your view and your perch as we walk into this campaign.
Well, I have to say, you know, the numbers say one thing, but when you go to the grocery store, like you just said, Joe, or when you go to buy a car or when you go to buy a home, you want to be able to feel something tangible when it comes to inflation. If people are still struggling with that, they're still going to be unhappy about that, and Republicans are going to discuss that. So clearly, this is not the news that the president wants.
Absolutely. And of course, we know that the economy weighs heavily on the minds of voters. Consistently, it is the economy and another issue, the border, that shows up among primary concerns. And to return to what we just heard a moment ago from President Biden, or at least we heard the sound of his interview last night on Univision, Mario, he's talking about an executive order. We're thinking here 212F authority. Potentially, we could see action in the coming weeks. We've had murmurs around an executive order on this for a long time now, since that bipartisan deal that was struck with the White House and a bipartisan group of senators on border security failed. What is the president really thinking of doing here, and why wait this long to do it if he was going to do anything? Well,
according to the president, he's trying to figure out whether or not he has the legal authority to do it in the first place, right? And to your point, Kailey, he's been kind of vacillating about this for the last month or so, ever since his predecessor and 2024 political rival, Donald Trump, urged Republicans to torpedo a deal that would have essentially given him the authority to shut the border after, say, about 5,000 border crossings. Now, the political gambit that Trump made when he asked Republicans to do that was that it was such a baked-in issue for President Biden that he wouldn't be able to run away from it, right, and pin the blame on Republicans. Yeah. That has been true. That continues to bear itself out in polls with migrants in streets and blue cities, et cetera. And so now you're saying President Biden try to figure out a way to try to solve this political issue that's essentially an albatross around his neck.
But he doesn't know if he has the legal authority to do this, right? I thought that was a very revealing moment that we saw in that interview. We're basically going to try to throw this thing against the wall and see if it sticks, Mario. Is that the way to approach a policy after being slapped down by the Supreme Court already once?
Well, that cringe that you heard was essentially the lawyers who are working on that case, because that will essentially be Exhibit A when they go to challenge this, right? Because they want to keep this issue front and center for Biden at this point. The fact that he's publicly saying whether or not he doesn't know, I mean, it's probably not the sharpest political maneuver, right? But again, he's also being forthright about it.
Well, of honesty, yeah.
Yeah, well, Julie, of course, you're coming to us from the border state of Texas. You have covered the border issue extensively, and we know that there hasn't always been a welcome reception to the idea of President Biden doing something on his own, even though congressional Republicans at first were saying the president has authority that he's not using. When first an executive order was suggested, you saw pushback from the likes of House Speaker Mike Johnson. So is there anything realistically on this issue that the president can do that will keep people satisfied?
I think that's going to be very challenging. In a political world, what he can say is, OK, I tried to do this with an executive order. The court said no. All of you are telling me to do something. I couldn't do something. So he has that. He can also talk a little bit about the bill and put the pressure on the bill, saying, again, why won't you pass this if I'm not able to do this through executive order? But in terms of satisfying everyone, that is very difficult to do, because then if the president decides and is able to shut down the border, there are many Democrats that feel that is the wrong way to go. So he is in a very difficult situation.
So with that said, what's the reaction going to be from Governor Abbott? What's the Republican base in Texas saying about this today, Julie?
Well, the Republican base continues to say something needs to be done. I think they will wait to make a major statement to see how this plays out in the courts.